anywhere with you, 'cause you fill my mind, oh, you fill my mind. We could build a dream, start up something new, and the world is on your shoulders, and you feel like falling over. Just let me in your head so I can be there for you, there for you. The night is young, won't you sing for me, won't you sing for me?
Hello, everybody. Welcome to VC Masters on the Pod TV network. I'm Nick Palavita. I'll be your backroom moderator about a very important show we're going to listen to with a special guest. It will deal with securities fraud. And people don't realize how big of an industry this really is. In some years, it could be $600 billion, much more than the street crime that we hear about, which is about $6 billion. But with that, we're going to bring in Dr. Salman Azhar, who's a professor at Duke University, heads up the Azimuth Fund, and he'll introduce our special guest. I'm waiting to listen to the good stories about this because there's nothing better than a good, juicy story about fraud. And you know, it's just it's kind of amazing. You can't make some stuff up. The truth is unbelievable. So,
well, thank you, and thank you to Pod TV and Nick Palavita and everybody else in his team to make this possible. I teach fraud analytics at Duke University, and Nick is absolutely right that there's nothing more interesting than juicy stories. And I met Stephen actually through one of his videos that a common friend shared with us, and that's kind of how we got to know each other. He does some very, very exciting stuff. He's a guest lecturer at Duke University as well. So without further ado, Stephen, come on into the main room.
So I appreciate the introduction, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you so much for having me on the show. Lovely
to have you here. So, you know, it was just a few days ago that you were guest lecturing at Duke, and you told us some of the things. And tell me, how did you get involved in detecting securities fraud, and why is that such a passion for you?
You know, in 2016, within a matter of 2 weeks, I had a friend and a family member both being taken advantage of, two different scams. One, an annuity swapper who was moving people's life savings from one contract to the other to earn commissions, and circumnavigating certain protocols that are put in place to stop that exact behavior. And then within 2 weeks, I found another individual, a friend of mine, who was involved in a Ponzi scheme. And it got me thinking that there's got to be some scenario out there where investment advisors like me, who know the rules, know the regulation and compliance, can use that skill set to identify fraud and help either regulators or the investors avoid those pitfalls and just kind of go after that. So put two cases together, brought one of them down immediately. The other one's still in the industry. So it always amazes me how hard it is actually to stop a bad actor, but been doing it ever since. And I just love it. It's a passion of mine.
Lovely. I also got involved because of a personal experience. I got into a car accident, and a body shop offered to inflate their estimates so that we can split some money and make some extra money on the top. And since then, it has been my passion as well. How do you make money in doing what you're doing?
You know, when I first started out, there's so much fraud in the industry. I thought it was going to be a conveyor belt process. Build a name, fraud gets introduced, figure out how to bring it down, either get paid by finding restitution for clients, or even through regulators, the whistleblower process that's set up by Congress to encourage individuals to report fraud in a timely manner. And I thought that if I could help individuals bring in, get that claims back, that eventually building a name, I could make videos and then monetize that through YouTube. But it's actually been a lot harder than I thought to get the appropriate cases, get them taken down. And there's such a delay in being compensated for all that, that realistically, it's the goodwill that I build on the investment side. I'm subsidizing the fraud investigation and have been for years, hoping to change that in the future. But if not, I'm going to keep doing it because someone's got to.
So it's not the money that motivates you to fight this. It is the passion of doing the right thing and protecting the innocent people. So how do you actually make money? Would love to learn more about your business.
Yeah, so WatchGuard Capital is a registered investment advisor at the state level. And what we do is we manage IRAs, brokerage accounts, your standard models with stocks, ETFs. We do specialize in option trading. So if you're looking for investment advisory services, that's what we do. But then I've been fairly successful in building that business that there's there's discretionary income from that model to be able to subsidize the fraud investigation. So much so that we'll be bringing on additional investigators next year and really staffing that out. So I really do think that there is a potential to build that business, that side of it out to be monetized. It's just, it's a big delay. But so yeah, unfortunately at this point, the investment advisory world is subsidizing it. But by next year, I'm working on 2 big cases that I think that are going to put my name out there and hopefully become household. And if those 2 go as big as I think they will, I think that side of the business will be able to support itself without being augmented from the investment side. But again, even if it doesn't, the passion, the entertainment, just bringing people, honestly, the calls I get from people who've been harmed, just being able to tell me their story. And I found a lot of times that through a litigation process, when the government's prosecuting, they're not really open with what's going on. So if I can translate the process and just release videos and blog posts about where these cases are and why the government's basically doing certain things, it really helps the victims have that advocate on their side to translate the whole process. There's a lot of goodwill.
As I mentioned, yeah. So that's a very noble cause. And as I mentioned earlier, I didn't know you from Adam, and it was your video that somebody shared that even told me there are people who do something like what you do. I still remember I was at Chicago Airport when we were talking, and this was I think around November, December timeframe, because it was freezing cold and it was snowing outside. And as Chicago, it happens in Chicago, and you're in Arizona, completely opposite right now. And a lot of people actually thought that I made those videos and accused me of making those videos.
Sorry about that.
So for the record, can you just say it that we didn't know each other when you made those videos?
We absolutely didn't. In that case, I just finished a very massive one. And honestly, I didn't want to pick up that particular one. Random email. I came in, I knew the disclaimer was off. And I was like, all right, someone's got to do this. So basically started looking into it, knew immediately what was going on. And then I didn't have a victim, right? So it was the actual individual that were doing it that solicited me. So what I had to do was build a intro video to explain to everybody where we were at. And then I put it out there, and I helped for that exact issue. Was you see video 1, someone contacts me and says, oh, here's the missing pieces that make me feel a little bit better about what I do. Give me a little bit more evidence that I'm not on the wrong path and opening myself up to a lawsuit. So after that, once I put that first video out and then it got shared in that first go around, that was extremely helpful to get that background information.
So you mentioned
at all.
Yeah, we didn't know each other. Yeah. So I'm glad for, and I can say that, and because I lost a lot of mutual friends after that, you're throwing your friends under the bus and like, I didn't do it. Right. So, you mentioned opening yourself up to a lawsuit. What kind of legal exposure do you have when you report fraud and especially make it public like you do in videos?
Well, for individuals who do it, you can go to the regulators, FBI, SEC, and you can provide private, secure whistleblower tips. So you can do this silently. But for me, I wanted to expedite the process. So I've developed a certain system where I feel like I've mitigated my exposure to a lawsuit as much as possible, including before I go public with those videos, I'll always send the video to the individual that I'm accusing of being a bad actor and give them a time period to respond to it if they think that I mischaracterized any of their actions or I got anything wrong. And if they did respond in good faith, I would review their complaint just to keep it out of the court system. But rarely at that point, I already know what's going on. And I'm very careful about what I say and making sure that I have multiple sources before I accuse anybody publicly, because it's not my job to bring down ignorant investors or bad investors. It's bad actors that are doing illegal things. And that's when I go into full out public, let's bring these guys down before they destroy other people's life savings.
So what percentage of people approximately respond to you when you send them the draft of the video? Or seriously, none whatsoever?
I've had none of the individuals. I have had one. So again, if I'm using logos or companies or previous information, if anything looks like it's tied together, I'll include a lot of people on those initial emails and say, hey, just making sure I got all the facts right. I've had a general counsel call me and say, hey, just for what it's worth, we severed ties a while ago. So I'm not sure why this individual still claiming to be affiliated with our company. But if you could leave us out of it. And in that scenario, again, good faith, I absolutely stripped it out because I don't necessarily want to pick battles that aren't necessary. But zero have ever responded. And there's been a couple, they always try and circumnavigate, the process. They might try and use, like I had the one recently, the one that we were involved in, they were trying to use YouTube's copyright claim system to take my video work and my work down. So I had to keep disputing that and learn that process. But even then I just put out a third video and said, hey, if you keep this is not a battle you're going to win. I'm going to basically fight back and make sure that you're not trying to silence my voice in order to, while I'm trying to help investors, the community.
That was the 3 strikes video?
Yeah, that one really ticked me off because I just kept, I don't have time. I don't have time to mess with stuff that I've already reported and go. And in this case, I was just like, okay, if you guys are going to, never even contact me directly. And I guess there was a scenario where an internal rep did try to, but it wasn't, hey, we're sorry for lying for you. This is what was going on. It's really, in that one,
there was just dig deeper.
Bureaucracy of YouTube's copyright strike to try and get that stuff removed, but they were unsuccessful in that endeavor.
And are they the first ones that tried that?
No, yeah. Actually, I was like, oh, what is this? Did I just commit copyright fraud? And then I had to figure out what free use is and go through that whole process. But most people just ignore it and try and look the other way. And then I do a pretty good job of following up every so often and tagging them on Twitter or Facebook and letting all their potential future clients know that I'm still out here, and hopefully they can refresh that and see that information I've dispensed for them.
So now that you've given us all that background, what I really want to get to is the juicy stories. Give us some juicy stories.
Well, the most interesting story is the first video I ever made. So if you go back, I had to teach myself video editing because I just couldn't get help with regulators moving fast enough. So I figured if I took it public, that would at least help investors. So if you go back in my first videos, you're going to see a learning curve as I make videos. And while I'm doing this and learning my own process, I was very nervous. My voice would be shaky when I was talking to, specifically that legal counsel in the first one. But about 2 years into this process, I was onto a case, and something occurred to where I had to reschedule a flight to the last day of another on the next day. So I get to Sky Harbor, go there. I'm the last person to get on a plane. I go to sit down. It's Southwest Fiesta seating. There's one seat open, and I sit down, pull up on my computer. I'm behind schedule because of this event that occurred. And I go to start researching and basically pulling up visuals so I can start making the video on this individual. He was sitting right next to me. I didn't know what he looked like at the time, but I had talked to him 4 days prior. So if there's one signal that the universe told me that I was on the right path, what are the odds that this event happens that causes me to have to delay my flight by 1 day? I have to take the last flight. I can get on flights usually first, but I decided to be the very last person. And the last seat available on the Southwest flight is sitting next to the guy that I was going to get caught up on that flight to research, sitting right next to me. And when I introduced him, so he goes, hey, who are you? And I say, oh, shoot, we talked 3 days ago. I'm Stephen Paluga. Face turns white. And I knew that the universe told me I was on the right path.
And was he on the window seat or the aisle seat?
He had a family member with him. So again, good faith. I think to this day, he thinks I was tracking him, but I just accidentally.
I would think that.
So
if you magically showed up, right?
So in that specific situation, he was sitting right next to me, but I knew that the path was right because I had no qualms about the situation. I wasn't nervous. I was like, this is awesome. And then him, straightforward, not a single word was said between us. I could tell that the mannerisms changed, and I wasn't about to start anything between me and with his family member sitting there. So, but that was
I would be so tempted to start a conversation and say, so tell me about this. Tell me about this.
Honestly, again, this is one of the very first ones. And I was like, am I about to get beat up for what I'm about to do? Like, are we about to get kicked off this flight and banned? And I don't know. So I'm just going to play this one cool too. And we're just not going to talk.
And can you tell us a little bit about what the kind of fraud that was?
That was an individual who failed. So basically a transfer client, and they unenrolled them from an institutional advised account and then charged all these commissions under a retail umbrella. So that wasn't even super fraudulent. It was just circumnavigating rules to get one last stab at his client because he'd not been a very good advisor and she was shifting. So he decided to load up everything in commissions. It's not a big deal. I ended up having to refund over all the broker commissions that were charged at the old commission or the other firm. So it wasn't big. It was just that one instance where it was so recent into the process that I was building that I knew that I needed to keep doing this. But I've had some other ones where there was a case once where I fought for 6 months to figure it out. Couldn't do it, but you know what? We got to get the whistleblower complaint in the system, file it. 3 weeks later, completely independent person comes to me and says, "Hey, I think you're in investments. Can you review this contract and see if I should do it?" It was all the missing pieces. So I was able to help the individual who engaged with me, who wanted me to do the work and the research, the analysis, and help them file. And then I was able to just happened to get the missing pieces to strengthen their case and provide that. So we had that one, and let's see another one. Again, the email, just random emails. And for every video you see that I go public on, there's probably 10 more in the background that you're not going to know about because it's just not strong enough case for me to take on the public risk of litigation. But there's no shortage of fraud out there in the industry.
Has anybody threatened you to take these videos down other than just trying to harass you with YouTube copyright violations and stuff?
When someone's speaking the truth, what are you going to threaten them with? Right? I know what I'm doing. And I always think like, oh, you're going to get a lawyer, you're going to send me a cease and desist letter. That's fine. That's just part of the chess match. But if we could really go to court, that's fine. We're going to open up discovery. I'm going to go through your books. And if I find even more material, I'm going to send that to regulators. And then I'm going to make more videos. So we'll just bring down your operation even faster. So again, if you see the video, I'm fairly certain this thing's going to end anyway. I'm just expediting the process for you.
And then what you can say to them is, sue me, please, because I would love to do discovery. And so my experience with reporting fraud to regulatory industries is that they don't do anything generally, and they just sit on it. Has your experience been similar or different?
It was similar to that before I started making videos. But if you want to get somebody to engage with you, make a video about it and then tag that regulator, and they'll usually call you within a couple weeks. That's what I've seen. So you can expedite the communication process a little bit. And what's really fun is when a regulator who calls you and says, "Why are you tagging us on Twitter on this video?" I'm like, I figured you guys would see it and call me then.
You are as transparent as they can be. So that is kind of interesting because now my reputation is at stake or something like that, and I would definitely at least if I'm a regulator, I would call you. And so the videos are the missing link, and I thought you were doing videos for my entertainment, my personal entertainment. Forget about the rest of the world, but you're actually doing it for the regulators.
Both, honestly. So what will happen is usually I'll file a complaint, I'll wait. I never know if a regulator, usually that's a long drawn out process. They want to do it through the court system and get, wiretaps, or they want to get, permission to really do their investigative side. And I don't want to destroy that for them. But after, that first one with that annuity swapper, I dealt with ODI, Ohio Department of Insurance, every 6 months for over 2.5 years. And they acted like they were doing an investigation and going to do something about it. And then one day they just said, well, check our website for the rest of time. And if we do something, you'll know. And that's when I was like, this is unacceptable. I am not going to just sit here and hope that you do something. So in that case, that's where the video process started. And it's been very effective to either warn people, but going back, I'll give them 90 days to do something, contact me or do something. At that point, I go into phase 2, which is, okay, we're making a production about this and going public to see if I can get more victims to incentivize somebody to do something. And if I can't,
you're a patient person. 90 days. I wouldn't be able to, after making a video and putting so much effort into it, I wouldn't be able to wait 90 days. What gives you that patience?
Really, I appreciate regulators, the handcuffs that our system has set on them, because they can't just go, I could be 90% sure of something, shoot fire and figure out the consequences later. But the government can't be doing that because they'll get sued and then there'll be big fines. So it's not good for citizens if the government regulators aren't 100% sure when they're doing certain things. So I completely appreciate that I have a flexibility that is not open to them. So in this case, I'll file a complaint. I'll do as much work as I possibly can. And then if they contact me, I'll ask them, do you want me to stay in the process, or do you open an investigation? Like, how can I help you? If they don't contact me, all right, now my leads diverts from the regulator to the investor who are being harmed, and specifically the future investors whose life savings might be at stake. So that's when I start going public. Then I get more information, try and build the case. But even then, I've lost somewhat faith that something's going to happen to help me. So again, it goes back to the passion. I like doing this. It's a lot of entertaining. It's a lot of fun to do this kind of stuff.
So anyone can go to WatchGuard Capital and watch these videos, right?
You can. So WatchGuard Capital on the top blog, I release the videos there, and then on the YouTube, if you want to be kept up to date on those. If you have any tips, you can go in there. I have a very strict code. Nothing that's said to me gets automatically sent to a regulator unless the tipster gives me permission. But I'm, again, staffing out that entire side of the business, splitting it off. It's a lot of work, so I need help. So I need to bring in some team members to take over the investigation part, unless it's very specific to what I want to find. And then, so we'll be splitting that entity off starting next year, and really trying to build it out, because again, it's just, there's no shortage of these cases. It's just there's a lack of support in helping.
So what is the juiciest, give me the juiciest video that I would find on your YouTube channel?
I mean, this number 2 of the Forest Light Capital AIM, I always thought was pretty good because of it was super entertaining, pulling back all the levels of that one. So how easy it was to go through each company that was listed on the website and find the evidence of that it was shell companies that were being sold as inducing reasons to induce capital investment. And it would be like going through the website and finding zero inventory across all the products. So I really liked that one. So if you want to get into this industry, or you want to know how to increase your capability as a due diligence process in venture capital, go check out that one, because I give away a lot of what I do in the background. But my one concern is I never want to basically tell fraudsters how to avoid me knowing what you're doing. So I don't necessarily give away all of my processes so that I strengthen their ability to circumnavigate regulators and myself. But if I were looking at all those cases that are on there, there's one that's called the J&J Slip and Fall Ponzi scheme. That's the biggest, $660 million, Utah. There's another firm, the only one I've ever seen do this type of work is called Hindenburg Research, and they're getting out of the industry now, much, much, much bigger and professional than currently what I'm operating at, way bigger deep pockets. But that whole case really spread through the Mormon church. So there was an element of feeling bad for everyone's guard that was let down because of the religious aspect. But the amount of tips on that, the amount it spread, the video timelines if you look at that screen, you'll see this wire diagram of all the houses, the buildings, the registered the registered places for lawsuits, and just piecing it all together. The reason it looks like that is because I accidentally found 2 other scams while it was happening, and it took me 2 more months to unwind all the scams that seemed like they're one part. So I think that 4-part series was the most interesting, and there are FBI standoffs in that series. There's a pharmacist who was involved with the Michael Jackson death, like just all these weird little elements. So that was one of the more intricate puzzles that had to be pieced together to figure out what was really going on.
I have so many questions for you right now, but let's start with Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Tell me more about that, or whatever you can tell me.
Yeah, no, it was this interesting thing where some of the individuals involved were tangentially some of the business partners also were running scams through or running issues through kickbacks in hospitals for pharmacy referrals, and then specialty compounding. A lot of fraud that occurs there. Again, that one's not monetizable. You're not going to get paid whistleblower for finding that unless you do false claims through court. But the individuals that were involved in that were also involved in the main timeline of the J&J Slip and Fall, which was like a lawyer. Lawyers would introduce clients supposedly who were going to get settlements, but they needed some money in the meantime so you could make 30% in 90 days, something crazy. But realistically, it was just one of the guys was also doing pharmaceutical fraud and also happened to be in this. So that's one of the more interesting things that I find is somebody who's involved in fraud one place. If you can track all the other businesses, you can probably find your next candidate to try and take down, because the unethical behavior a lot of times will cross multiple lines of business.
The slip and fall, was it similar to the Breaking Bad or actually Better Call Saul? Slip and fall was, I don't know if you've seen that thing, is the show that I'm talking about?
I have, love it. Anything that's going to do with fraud, lawyers, court cases, things like that, I would be watching it. Somewhat similar. Lawyer, basically, gambling problem, goes for a short-term loan. Supposedly everybody builds out this big, intricate network of individuals soliciting unregistered settlement on transfers. And again, everybody let their guard down and returns were really great until they weren't. But it's fairly similar. It's just there was actually nobody slipping and falling in no court cases, which was the obvious tell when I heard about it. I went, all right, I found some contracts. Let me go see if they actually exist in the court system. They didn't. All right, let's do this.
So basically, in the contingency cases, the lawyer gets something like 35% of the total settlement. How did they settle without any court cases? They had somebody on the inside?
New money. No, there is none. So basically, you go to someone and say, hey, there's this case. It's in your classic Ponzi scheme. There is no assets. There is no money. There's just investors being sold a false story. They deposit money. You use that to pay returns. They deposit more. They tell their friend. Now you have another pool of money. Again, if you take let's say $100,000 from somebody and you promise them 30% returns, well, you've got $30,000 in your pocket to pay them for the year. And then you've got their $70,000 to either induce other individuals to give you $100,000, or you can go buy yourself something nice. So it's one of those things where in the beginning of a Ponzi scheme, when it's small, super easy to run, compounding rate of return, easy to keep up with all the interest payments. But as soon as it hits an inflection point where the interest going out to paying previous investors is lower than the amount that could be raised by new investors, that's when you start having your, hey, I'll pay you next week or I'll pay you next month. That's your inflection point where people will start engaging and looking into it. That's where I always hope where my services come in and to help to bring it down. But at some point, if you're promising those type of returns and people aren't taking funds, the fictitious amount of money that's in that pot gets so big that you can't keep up with even small amounts of withdrawals because there's nothing there to pay people back their principal and their earnings.
Fascinating. So, I had some experiences with that, especially like, slip and fall claims, because after the .com bubble burst, I took all the money that I had earned on tech and bought Taco Bells from that. And like every few months, and there were 14 stores, and every kind of month or two, I would have something like, somebody locked themselves in the bathroom and couldn't get out. Somebody fell. And the most fascinating was that somebody left a camera in a store, and we kept that camera. And then somebody calls and say, oh, I left my camera in the store. And they said, yeah, we have it. So the manager said, we have it. You can come by and pick it up. Guy comes and picks up the camera. And then another guy comes in and says, hey, I left my camera in the store. And it turned out that it was a fraud ring where they were kind of like, and it turns out that if you don't have like these signs, disclaimers that, property, take care of your property, you are liable. And now we became liable for giving his camera to somebody else. And it was like a fancy camera. We basically paid him $800 to settle, just so that he gets out of here.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about knowledge. What you don't know can hurt you, absolutely. In that case, as soon as you know, different ballgame, and you can protect yourself.
Stephen, one of our most popular shows on Pod TV is Timeshares, Surrender Solution. And I had no idea. We have people on every week. We get calls, matter of fact, inundated with phone calls on this. Apparently, people buy timeshares, and then they find out that it's kind of a scam. The new ones are. The old ones used to buy, you had a week, so you had your week. Now they give you points, but you never have enough points. You have to continually buy more points. And then you have mortgages you got to continue to pay. It's like unbelievable. Every week somebody gets scammed out of timeshares. I'm fascinated with this type of stuff. and it works really well on the Pod TV network. So if you want to have your own show on that, people love this stuff, and you just don't get it through major media. But the real reason I showed up is we're out of time. So we want to thank Stephen, who's our special guest, and of course Dr. Salman Azhar, and our viewers in the United States and also around the world, because there's no other in the United States, no one else has this problem. Right. And with that, we'll see you next week on VC Masters, only on the Pod TV network. Take care. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
I go anywhere with you, 'cause you fill my mind, or you fill my mind. We could build a dream, start up something new, and the world is on your shoulders, and you feel like falling over. Just let me in your head so I can be there for you,